Okay, so let's take a look at Cisco's website here with the information for the new exam. So the shortcut to this page, if you go to cisco.com/go/CCIE, this will redirect you to the main CCIE page. And in our case specifically, we want the routing and switching exam. Now you'll see nowadays a lot of the information that used to be on the CCIE website and on Cisco's website is now on the Cisco Learning Network. So if you don't already have a login to the CLN, you would want to sign up for one, because that's where most of the specific blueprint information is going to be located. Okay, so you can see the first headline here. It says the new lab requires troubleshooting, hands-on troubleshooting. Both exams cover MPLS and VPN with the new version 4.0 blueprint. So this forwards us to then the Cisco Learning Network. Specifically, we want to know what are the routing and switching version for lab exam topics. So if you are not logged in, you basically get to this page, and then it says, actually open in a tab, it says you must be logged in to view the content. Okay, specifically, I want to know what are the lab exam topics. This is the blueprint for the lab. Now, the list here is definitely more detailed than it has been in the past, and this is going to include the open-ended questions, the troubleshooting section, and the configuration section. But one of the problems historically with this list, it says that other related topics may also appear on any specific delivery of the exam. So they're basically saying that these are the possible topics, but also it could technically be anything else that they want to throw in there. But it should be a fairly good guideline as to what you should be going through. And you basically could use this as kind of a checklist to figure out, have I gone through standard spanning tree, 802.1d? Have I gone through multiple spanning tree and rapid spanning tree, 802.1w and s? Okay, different types of features of spanning tree. We will talk about these a little bit later when we get to Ethernet troubleshooting, Ethernet switching troubleshooting. But again, these topics would not be in the troubleshooting section itself. They're going to be limited to the configuration section, because with the virtualized environment of IOU, this is going to be the switching is going to be focused in the configuration section. Now, also here under layer 2, you can see towards the end it says implement frame relay and HDLC PPP. This is the type of troubleshooting that I would expect to see for layer 2 in the actual troubleshooting section. So we will talk about today the specifics of what are some of the problems with PPP, HDLC, and frame relay related to LMI, our communication with the frame relay network, the end-to-end PVC communication, and then additional issues like mappings for layer 3 to layer 2 resolution. Now, section 2 here, definitely going to be the largest portion of the scope of the exam, implementing IP version 4. Pretty much anything that is related to IP, its sub-protocols, so TCP, UDP, the actual routing protocols, and then the route head protocols. So GRE tunneling, RIP version 2, OSPF, EHRP, BGP, pretty much anything that is within the scope of these. The new additions here are going to be the performance routing, which is the optimized edge routing. Everything else is going to be pretty similar to what was covered before there. Now, as I mentioned, in IPv6, the new additions here are EHRP version 6, and then down under multicast, implementing IPv6 multicast in multicast listener discovery. But definitely a topic like this and EHRP version 6 would be kind of peripheral topics in the exam. So for multicast, I would definitely recommend to focus more on point 5.10 here, which is just PIM itself. PIM for IPv4 routing. IPv6 multicast, it's good to know what it is, what are some of the basic configuration options. Definitely we're not going to go into tons of detail with that as opposed to the IP version 4. Now with MPLS, 3 subcategories here. It says implementing MPLS, which would basically be LDP for label distribution. implementing layer 3 virtual private networks on the PE, and CE routers. So this would mean our actual MPLS core, which would be our label distribution protocol, the PE to PE communication, which is going to be our multi-protocol BGP, then the PE to CE routing, which would be our VRFs and our VRF-aware routing protocols. So basically any protocol that was already in the scope of IPv4, which would be static routing, policy routing, RIP, OSPF, EHRP, BGP, those could all be interacting with the MPLS VPN domain. So we will be spending time this week looking at the different verifications and looking at some of the problems that are inherent to the MPLS-based networks. Okay, next we have implementing network security with some of the standard stuff that was covered before: access lists, iOS firewall, network address translation, security features. That type of stuff is standard. What is new here is going to be the zone-based policy firewall, and then some minor features like control plane policing. Not really too involved, but you do definitely need to know what is related to that. Now for AAA specifically, it says configuring the AAA server is not required, only the client-side configuration. So unlike the security exam, there will not be an actual AAA server that you are interacting with. It's going to be limited just to things like local authentication, local authorization, but those definitely could be problematic, so we will take a look at those. What are the possible issues that we could run into with those type of features? So security, as I mentioned, one of those things that would definitely be candidate for the troubleshooting section, because there's so many other possible issues that security filtering, whether it's static filtering or active firewall filtering, so many other issues that it could introduce into the network. From things all the way down to the layer 2 level, like breaking spanning tree, up through layer 3 routing protocols and the actual application layer. Okay, next we have network services, features like first hop redundancy, network time, DHCP, web cache. We will touch on these a little bit. There's not a whole lot that would be related to troubleshooting and these protocols other than a misconfiguration. So common issues like authentication problems, or maybe the virtual addresses is configured incorrectly. Network time could also be related to some other options. Let's say like time-based authentication or maybe time-based filtering. If your time is incorrect, you could run into some other possible issues there, but definitely not as large of a topic domain troubleshooting-wise as compared to the layer 3 IP. Now, same is going to go along with the QoS. Troubleshooting QoS, short of just misconfigurations like our marking policy being wrong, or maybe our values for something like policing or shaping being wrong, down to the point where the network is unusable. So let's say we wanted to shape the network to 10 megabits per second, and we actually accidentally shape it down to 10 kilobits per second. Well, that's probably going to be an issue from a transit point of view. So we will talk about the modular quality of service, some of the stuff at layer 2, but definitely not as large of a focus as the layer 3 routing. Okay, so troubleshoot a network, kind of a generic category here. Layer 2, layer 3, network in response to application problems. So maybe your voice over IP quality is bad. You need to hunt down what is the source of that. Network services, network security. So really it's a very, very vague category, which basically covers everything already up to this point that was listed on the blueprint. And lastly, our management type protocols, things like SNMP, RMON, file transfers, Telnet. There's not a whole lot of troubleshooting that would go into this that doesn't relate to other layers of the network. So if SNMP is broken and your SNMP configuration is correct, then we need to start looking at things lower down the stack, like layer 2 problems, basic layer 3 routing or routed problems. Okay, any questions up to this point about the actual technologies that are within the scope of the new exam blueprint?